Hello, welcome to my channel Dull Talks from a Short Lady. This is the last video on the topic of group discussions, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about some of the do's and don'ts of a GD. Now, if you recall, in the introductory video, I spoke about the fact that a group discussion gauges your leadership skills. Now, during a group discussion, you might be getting not more than 2 or 3 minutes to speak, and the entire GD might not be more than 12 or 13 minutes. So, how do you go ahead and impress the panel with your leadership skills? It's quite a tough task, but if you do it in a systematic way, I'm sure you can get there. So, the first thing is to take initiative to start the GD. Unlike in the classroom, when the teacher assigns you any duty, you're reluctant to take the initiative to do it or to volunteer. But when you're in a GD, you're playing for high stakes, in this case, your first job. So it will benefit you if you take the initiative to start. In fact, if you start the GD and you also conclude the GD, you get the attention of the panel because people mostly tend to remember the beginning and ending of things. Next is you can make an interim summary if the discussion loses focus. And this can happen if two people get into a verbal controversy and they continue talking and fighting over the same point. What you can do is you can interrupt them and say, "Well, I think we have spoken about this particular point for quite some time. In fact, there are other points to cover. So let us stop the discussion here and let us get back to other points." This is what I call as showing leadership, because by stopping these two fighter cocks, you are in fact helping save time for the entire group. Next is you can perform the job of a timekeeper. Towards the end of the GD, it might be a good idea for you to go ahead and remind the entire group that maybe 2 or 3 minutes are remaining and we should go ahead and come to some conclusion. The next point is, if you can, create an opening for weak speakers. Now, in a group of 8 to 10 speakers, it is very much possible that maybe 1 or 2 speakers are not vocal enough to put forward their points. In that case, what you can do is you can say something like, "So far, many of us have been speaking and putting forward their points. However, a few people haven't shared their points yet. We would be very interested in knowing what they have to say." Now, this is how you create an opening. Anybody who is weak yet a smart speaker will know this is the time to step forward. If they do not take up on that opportunity, it is their loss, but it works well for you. However, there is a word of caution here. Do not address somebody by name and say that, "Okay, Anita, so far you haven't spoken. Why don't you share your points?" Now, this might backfire both for you and her. She might not be ready to speak exactly at that moment, and if she doesn't speak, you also have put yourself in an embarrassing situation. So just make it a general opening for people who haven't spoken yet. Now I'm going to be talking about some of the don'ts of a GD. Do not steamroll others by talking 19 to the dozen. Don't be a bully, allow other people to speak, and do not interrupt people while they are speaking. Do not use slang, colloquialism, and mixed code. I'm going to be talking about each one of them in turn. Now, words like "I was pissed at him," "my happiness was screwed." Now, the words pissed and screwed might be used often by youngsters, but they are actually slang words and they cannot be included in a formal GD. Colloquialism talks about words which are a little informal in nature. They are not offensive, but at the same time, they cannot feature in a formal group discussion. Examples would be, "The other day I met a dude." The word dude or the word chick, they are okay enough in regular everyday conversations between friends, but they're definitely not okay in a formal GD. The last one is code mixing, where you shift between two or three languages. So while speaking in English, if you suddenly move into Hindi, then you are guilty of code mixing, and this cannot happen again in a GD. This works okay when we are talking generally, but a GD is a very formal affair, so please stick to the English language. Now, you might feel the need to quote a Hindi proverb. In that case, you might say that I want to use a Hindi muhavra, and then in quotes, you can go ahead and say something like "Boon boon se sagar banta hai." Next is do not use technical jargon and obscure acronyms. For engineering students, they are very conversant with the acronym KT, but somebody who is not from an engineering background might not understand what is a KT. So, in a group discussion, you might be thrown into a motley crew, people from different fields, different backgrounds. So, not necessarily they'll understand your technical jargon or acronyms. So, try and explain whatever you're saying and try and tell the full form of something. Next, do not attempt to introduce any humor, it may fall flat. You might want to bring about some levity into the discussion, but please remember everybody in the group is quite tensed because it's a matter of their first job, so nobody is really in the mood for fun. So if you crack a joke, it may happen that people might not laugh. In that case, it's an embarrassing situation for you. Hence, do not try to attempt at any humor or sarcasm during the GD. Next one is do not ask the moderators for clarification. Suppose they give you a topic with a word which is difficult for you and you do not understand the meaning. In that case, please do not ask the panel for clarification. That will be a sure short way to indicate to them that you did not understand the topic. Moreover, when they give you time to prepare, please do not look here and there or peep into your friend's notebook. That also will be an indication to them that you did not understand the topic. Just keep your head down and doodle anything on your notebook. After the GD starts and you listen to two or three speakers, I'm sure you will have a fair enough idea of what to say in the GD. The next is do not play the devil's advocate. Now, at times, people might make some stupid comment or irrelevant point during a GD. Now, if you're smart enough to understand that it's an irrelevant point, even the panel is smart enough to detect and identify that. You do not need to underline the stupidity of the speaker by asking him a question like, I did not quite understand what you said. Could you explain yourself? Now, the moment you're doing this, you're guilty of playing the devil's advocate. And now I'll be talking about how to conclude the GD. First of all, you must summarize the discussion at the end. When you're summarizing, you must accommodate all points of view, even though they might be opposing to your point of view. Mention if the GD did not reach a consensus. You might be talking very fruitfully for 12 to 15 minutes, yet at times it is possible that the entire group is unable to come to a decision. In that case, just mention that we spoke at length, however, we were unable to come to a conclusion. Now, in case the panel forces you to come to a consensus, your last resort is to take a vote and go for a majority decision. But don't do this until and unless you're forced by the panel to take a decision. The last slide here, I'm going to be talking about the general rubrics for a GD, and I would like to draw your attention to the fact that the most important of all the criteria is your group behavior, maybe then your leadership skills, communication, ability to be analytical, and also your overall knowledge. With that, I come to the end of this session. For more videos on other topics, please refer to the description box below. The name of my channel is Dull Talks from a Short Lady. And with that, I will say thank you and bye.